What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by Kevil for the Thursday night football recap between the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The New England Patriots do bounce back and win this game in Tampa Bay in a sloppy Thursday night game, 19-14, in the home stadium of one Jameis Winston and also one Nick Folk, who showed that he is, for sure, without a doubt, the worst kicker in the NFL. As the title suggests, what the folk? All right, so we're going to get into this game. We're going to talk about the performances of Nick Folk, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, all the players involved, offensively, defensively. We have a big storyline coming off the last couple of weeks with the Patriots defense. I'm going to talk about what I thought about that tonight. What's up with the Buccaneers? They were supposed to have this high-powered offense. What's going on with them? Gronk's injured. He's supposed to be back next week. We'll talk about the impact of him on this game as well, and a lot more things regarding the NFL and this game. So, Kev, first off, what did you think of this sloppy, messy, boring Thursday night game?
Wow, you pretty much described. I don't know what I can contribute any different, but well, I will. I thought the Patriots defense at the start played pretty well. I thought their secondary showed some good improvement. I thought, but I guess ultimately my thinking here is, and I'm going to say something that's going to probably jar you a little bit. I want to quickly talk about the Bucs. If you're the Bucs, you let this one get away because Nick Folk impersonated Young Woo Koo tonight.
Don't ever bring that man's name up again.
Well, it's now Nick Folk or Young Woo Koo, who's the worst kicker in the NFL. And they left this one on the table, quite frankly, if you're the Bucs. They got to the 19. They got to the last play of the game. Didn't quite get it done. Clutch Patriot defense, I guess. I don't know. For the Bucs, and I think after the Falcons lose to the Bills, I think that at the end of the year, I think the Bucs are going to look back on this one and say they let this one get away, and it's going to impact them in the standings. I don't know, honestly, Mitch, what to make of the Patriots. I think that there were times that they looked okay. There are times that their defense in the first half looked good, but they were up 16-7, 19-7, and I don't know what to make of this team. I really don't. I mean, I guess you can say, yeah, they won, but has the world been solved in New England? No, I don't think so. I don't think their offense was consistent. I think they need to establish a running back. I think they allowed Jackson on a big play, and I think had it not been for Young Woo Folk, who knows what the difference would have been. I don't know what to make.
I look at this game differently because I see the game early on with the Patriots offense where they were making uncharacteristic mistakes, and that kind of fell into what this game became. It was like a game of mistakes and who wanted to win this game less. So early in the game, there was a terrible throw by Brady, overthrows, intercepted. It looked like they were going to go down the field and score at least a field goal on that drive. The following drive, Brandon Cooks drops a pass on third down. And then we get into this whole thing where the Patriots are moving the ball. We'll get into the stats for backup on my conversation here. But they're moving the ball. Once they get into the red zone, they do something stupid. They take a penalty, and then they have to kick a field goal, which is allowing the Bucs to stay in this game. And then when the Bucs were successful on offense, which I thought this game was going to turn up totally different, I predicted the game to be 38-24. That was before Gronk got hurt, but that's also intending that the Bucs would have more success on offense. So the Patriots in the red zone, they did all that. They settled for field goals, which allowed the Bucs to get into the game. And then the Bucs on offense, they weren't moving the ball until a stupid penalty would happen from the Patriots' perspective. Then they would get like a couple of rare plays down the field, like a couple here and there. But that didn't start until the third, fourth quarter when the Patriots were up 16-7, a 2-score lead. And I just felt like the Patriots mostly handled this one. At no point in the game until the end of the game on the last couple of plays did I really feel nervous about the outcome. I felt like the Patriots had it. I just felt like they didn't dominate this game, which may be the concerning part of this. But honestly, from what I've seen from this team and from this defense this season, mostly this defense, I'll take this game as an improvement. This is a tough spot on a Thursday night. It's always a tough game on Thursday night. It's always sloppy football. And the Patriots typically win one of these games, usually against a divisional opponent where it's a close game. But this wasn't. This was, a Tampa Bay team that a lot of people thought was going to be good before this season. I just thought this was a really sloppy game. It was a game to judge really coming out of it. But I definitely can look at the Patriots defense first off and say they have surely fixed a lot of the communication errors. I can say that for the most part. And I think that they went really simple in this game. It seemed like they played a lot of man or a lot of cover 2 in this game, and they kind of just settled in those defenses. And I thought they did a really good job of that, keeping everything in front of them. They knew who they were facing. They knew the Bucs like to throw the ball down the field. They kind of took that away from them. And I thought the Patriots defense was aggressive. They actually acted like they wanted to win this game and actually cared. I thought we'll get into the great performances, but as a Patriots fan, after what we've seen these last few weeks, we know our offense can get it done, especially when Gronk comes back. And this was a sloppy game. It happens. There was a fumble by Brady on a drive that they were moving the ball. There was an interception by Brady where they were moving the ball. It happens. It was sloppy. It's bad. But sometimes your defense, like we've been talking about the Detroit Lions and giving them credit for, they need to win this game. And they need to win a game like this. And I feel like I would have been more comfortable with this victory, 19-14, than I would have won 40-35. You know what I mean? Because we've seen them win those games already this season. I'm not concerned about the offense. In my opinion, still the best in the league. They just had a bad game. And as we see by the stats here, Tom Brady still threw for 300 yards. They ran the ball for over 100 yards. They just didn't execute in the red zone, and a big part of that was because they didn't have 87, and I thought the Bucs did do a good job of kind of wrapping up in that area. But that's my take on the game. I just felt like if those field goals would have turned into touchdowns, this would have been a blowout. It just didn't happen. And I thought that the defense took significant steps forward after watching them give up big play after big play after big play this season.
I guess, yeah, I can see what you're saying. But I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying it was superb. It was perfect. I never said that. I said offense was, I said this game was sloppy. I said this offense was sloppy. I said the defense wasn't so great in the fourth quarter, but
that's my big concern.
But
because I haven't had the chance to look at the stats, but I'm actually thinking the worst part of the Patriots defense has been their performance in the fourth quarter. Because I remember that last week against Carolina. I remember that
against Carolina, they were playing their best football in the fourth quarter. I'm not joking. They had 2 stops in a row, and that's how the Patriots got back in the game. And then Stephon Gilmore took that terrible penalty, which allowed the Panthers to move the ball down for the kick.
I would be curious to look at their fourth quarter defensive stats. Because they seem
a lot of that is that they're up by 9 points and they're up by 2 scores and they're playing prevent defense, which Belichick and the Patriots always do, which always makes me nervous in these games, especially when you bet on the spread. But it always happens. Like the Bucs only had like 100 yards passing until like the third quarter, and then Jameis went off for like 200 yards because they were passing every play. I did think that there were some gashes in the run game, which looked concerning, and I don't know why Alan Branch, this whole situation with him where he didn't even make the flight over to this game. I'm sure he would have helped there. I don't know what's going on with him. I could see him getting traded because I don't know what's going on. I do still think that this Patriots defense is not fixed, but I will say this, that it's very much improved. It was competitive. They shut down Mike Evans in this game. Deshaun Jackson had 1 good play. So, I mean, this is the secondary I expected to get at the beginning of the season. This is the secondary I expected. I expected the front seven to be a little weak, which it has been, and it was tonight besides Trey Flowers and Dante Hightower. But that's I expected the secondary to be the defensive strength, and it was tonight, and that's the reason why they held Tampa Bay to 14 points. At home, where the Bucs are typically good, if we look at their scores, they scored a lot on the Giants defense that no one's going to say is bad. They killed the Bears. Their only bad game was against the Vikings on the road.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Bucs in a second. To me, I think that we were maybe our expectations are ridiculous when we're talking about the Patriots, but I looked at this game as an opportunity for them to make that statement that they needed to make. They didn't. I'm about to say something that you're going to think is ridiculous, but I want you to hear me out here. If you're the Buffalo Bills, you are now 3-1. The Patriots are 3-2, so 3-1, 3-2. You have to believe that the window has cracked open a little bit. Not fully, but there is an opportunity for the Buffalo Bills to take the AFC. There is now a 4% opportunity when it was now 1%. Because this Patriots team isn't as strong as it once.
I'll give you 4%. But like if we're talking logically here, I still don't believe in the Bills enough to say that I'm 100% confident they'll beat Cincinnati this week. This is typically a spot where the Bills lose.
Sure.
When everything's going their way, they're playing great football, then they go to a team that they should probably beat, and then they lose.
Sure, that's entirely possible. But tonight I was thinking that window has cracked open just a little tiny bit, not much, but it's interesting. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the Bills are not beating the Patriots ever, but like this year. But you got to wonder. I think that there is some unusual amount of weaknesses on this New England Patriot team that we were expecting and we were discussing.
I think they're improving though.
Undefeated.
They're improving though. Like as I always say, that 4-week period is kind of like their extended preseason, and then they start to fix some of their flaws. And as we've seen, those 4 weeks have passed, and they started slowly to fix their secondary a little bit, and that's kind of become a little bit better. And now maybe next week we'll see something else get a little bit fixed against the Jets, and maybe they'll gain some momentum off that game. And I think the big test to see where this team is at is when Atlanta comes to New England, and that's when we're really going to see, okay, where are the Patriots at? And typically in that game at home in prime time, they win that game. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think this was a sloppy Thursday night game. You can't really take a lot away from it. But if you're a Patriots fan, I think you have to feel a little bit more comfortable and at ease of this defense, because we know come playoff time that the Patriots are probably going to score enough points to win. It's just a matter of, okay, is the Patriots defense not going to lose them the game? And if they don't lose them the game, Patriots have a good chance of winning. So that's kind of where I sit. I'm still not sold, but I think it was better. So, and the offense had its bad game. It has a bad game once or twice a season, and I think this was one of those bad games, despite getting over 400 yards. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. So let's go through the
talk about the Bucs though first, because we haven't spent a lot of time on them. Sure.
So let's go with Jameis Winston, who was 26 for 46, 334 yards, 1 touchdown, and was sacked twice. I thought Jameis overall was a little inconsistent. He got better towards the end when he was kind of getting some of those easy throws off, and some of his receivers were actually coming through and getting open. And he's really inconsistent. As I said earlier, he is usually better at home, and I'm a fan of Jameis Winston. He has a lot of talent, and he's a great leader in my opinion, but he's still inaccurate. That's something that needs to be fixed. And I feel like Winston and Mariota are still on that same level where Winston is still a little too inaccurate and Mariota is still not bold and brash enough, and he doesn't take enough chances, and he doesn't he doesn't necessarily throw the ball well down the field. So I feel like both those quarterbacks are still comparable in that way, but they can show moments of greatness. I just thought Winston didn't have his best game here. But to credit him, there was also a couple drops in this game, specifically by Cam Brate. He did overthrow a couple people. He kind of reminds me of Cam in that way, where he overthrows people. He tends to throw the ball high and hard because he has such a hard arm, or a fast arm, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's my kind of analysis on Jameis Winston's game tonight.
Yeah, he started off really poorly. I mean, he was throwing to downtown Tampa Bay, the north side of Tampa Bay, the south side of Tampa Bay, but just not to his receivers. But he did get better at the end. I'm a little disappointed overall in this Tampa Bay offense.
Yes, very. That's what I wanted to talk about, because I think they've had their moments, but I think the Deshaun Jackson connection has clearly been off. Their offensive line is still a little off in regards to pass protection. Doug Martin does seem to give them something. He is definitely a lot better than any other running back they have. Cam Brate and O.J. Howard have been inconsistent. We saw O.J. Howard took a couple penalties in this game. Mike Evans, when he is being taken away from the game, they tend to struggle still. So that's still something to look out for with the Bucs.
You know, he hasn't had a 100-yard game yet. He's had 93, 67, 67, and 49 tonight.
Yeah, he had 49. Stephon Gilmore did a good job tonight. I'll give him credit. The last couple of weeks, he was literally covering no one.
That's true. So good job. He found a body.
Yes.
I would be curious to know, and I was thinking about this as we were talking. What's Mike Evans' record versus elite teams?
What do you mean, like yardage-wise?
Yeah, like when you play a good,
that's tough. I don't know.
I'd like to do some research on that, because I'm wondering if this guy's a little bit overrated.
I think part of it is also to do with the inconsistencies of his quarterback.
Yeah.
And another part of it is that he's been the only receiver there for like 2 years. So there's been no one else to take away coverage from him. It's just been him. So against good defenses, they should be capable of taking him away for the most part. But that is a fair point. Looking at the run game, Doug Martin, I thought, had a strong game in that regard. I thought weak in the pass game. He dropped a couple passes and was just looked off. And he's not necessarily a receiving back, but he's been known to do that a little bit. But in the run game, I thought he was strong. He was breaking a couple tackles. He was agile, I thought, getting through the holes. And I thought the offensive line opened him up, specifically down the middle, a couple of lanes on a couple of runs. He averaged 5.7 yards per carry. He had a long of 17, 13 rushes, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Winston had 3 carries for 11 yards, Sims 1 for 3, and Rodgers 3 for 2. So if you have him in fantasy, Doug Martin, you know that he's the workhorse going forward, because no one else even came close to his touches. And I think that's the best for the Bucs.
Yeah.
But I would like to see Charles Sims a little bit more in terms of just receiving.
Yeah, you need 2 backs in this to be successful. Like, you need 2 goalies. You need 2 running backs to win in the NFL. 2 or 3, it looks like. That's becoming more of the norm. That would be one concern I have with Tampa Bay going forward, that no one else really stepped up. And I've never been a huge Jacquizz Rodgers fan.
He gets the job done. He's small, though, so it's tough for him to be what's it called, a feature back, because he's so small. But he's over the past couple of weeks, he's not done a bad job.
He's not done a great job either.
Receiving, Deshaun Jackson had those 5 catches for 106 yards. I don't know what the long was, like 40, I think.
41, yeah.
Yeah, he had a 41-yard catch. Cam Brate, 5 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. A lot of that coming in the fourth quarter. Adam Humphries, 3 for 51. Mike Evans, 5 for 49. Charles Sims, 5 for 31. The most unnoticeable 5 for 31, I should say, because I don't remember one play. Maybe that one where Winston could have scrambled, but he threw it. That was the one that I remember. So overall, as we said, I think Mike Evans was mostly taken away in this game. Deshaun Jackson had a couple moments, specifically that 41-yard catch where he could have been gone, but McCourty kind of tripped him up. And Cam Braid had a touchdown. He could have probably had a couple, but he was a little off in this game. Defensively, Beckwith, the middle linebacker who's starting in place of Quan Alexander, had 14 tackles in this game and was very involved because he was having to cover Amendola and Hogan and all those guys down the middle, which was not a good matchup. They had Evans as well, who was a safety, and he was kind of in there in the box. He had an interception, but that was kind of like a free giveaway from Brady. I don't know what happened on that play. I can't really explain it. But Evans with 9 tackles and an interception. Hargraves had 6 tackles. Romo was on him a lot for not being aggressive enough, and I would agree with that. Chris Conti had 4 tackles. Glanton had 7 tackles and a sack. Also, Jarrell McCoy and McDonald, the 2 D tackles that I thought the Patriots may struggle a little bit with, did get some pressure in this game and had sacks. And that's pretty much it for the noticeable ones. I didn't really notice Brent Grimes. I thought I noticed what's his name, Robert McLean, in a negative fashion. But Robert Ayers wasn't really noticeable. William Golston, not really noticeable. So mostly McCoy, McDonald, and Beckwith were the guys that were most noticeable in the positive for me. Any thoughts on the defense from Tampa Bay?
They hung in there as long as they could. They did get worn out a bit in the second half. But they hung in there. Early on, they were getting pressure on Brady, and McCoy was part of the reason for that. I like the front line with McCoy and McDonald. I like them. I'm not a Brent Grimes. I don't know what you think of Brent Grimes, but not a big fan of him.
He's been inconsistent in his career, but last year he was good, and I don't really know about this year too much because I haven't watched a ton of Bucs, but he can be good.
Yeah. But they hung in there as long as they could. The Patriots have a lot of different ways that you can create. But there was also a lot of mismatches when we'll talk about the Patriots offense and how that worked there. So,
yeah. So looking at the Patriots offense, Brady was 30 for 40, 303 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and was sacked 3 times. So he still got 300 yards, and he threw the ball 40 times. It seemed like at one point Brady was going to throw it like 80 times in this game because they were never running the ball. But they had success running the ball. Lewis had 7 rushes for 53 yards on a 7.6 clip. He had a 31-yard carry in the first or second quarter. Gillislee had 12 rushes for 52 yards for 4.3 yards per carry. Brady had 2 for 5, and White had 2 for 3. Receiving, Cooks had 5 catches for 85 yards, a couple deep ones, very nice passes from Brady, and it looks like that connection is getting a lot more smooth. Amendola, 8 catches for 77 yards, was the big third down guy in this game when they needed him most. Hogan was that red zone threat. And by the way, since week 2, the leading receiver in fantasy, Chris Hogan, 8 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown, was solid again in this game. James White, again, does his thing, 7 catches, 57 yards. Didn't make a lot of guys miss, though, in this game, which usually he does. Lewis, 2 catches for 10 yards. So overall, Kev, I'll just give you the floor. What did you think of the Patriots' offense?
They were efficient. I thought this was Brandon Cook's best game. It turned out yards-wise it is, I think.
No, it's not. He was by far the best in the Texans game. I think he had like 130 yards in that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe he felt a little bit more noticeable. Spreading the ball around. I think they're different with Amendola. I think Amendola makes a difference with them.
Mm-hmm.
They have
especially without Edelman.
Yeah, they miss Edelman. I think they need to decide on a running back. They need to decide on one guy, and I think it probably should be Dion Lewis a little bit more. I understand why you want to use White in receiving situations, and you need that versatility. But I do think Lewis had a good game, and especially running the ball had a good game. But it seemed to be slowed in the second half for some reason or another.
I like that they use these running backs because they're all good. I just feel like they should use Lewis more. They don't use Lewis enough this season. I think they overuse James White a little bit, even though I love James White and he's incredible and he's arguably the best receiving back in the league just in that role. But he's not the greatest runner. I think Lewis gives him a little bit more in that regard. And I would like to see more Lewis and White on the field at the same time. Gillislee I think is in line for a breakout game. He looks very explosive. He almost never gets a negative run, and that's good when you're on a Patriots offense that's as pass heavy as they are. And he's been good in the red zone. One thing that the Patriots have a little bit struggled with is those 3rd and 1s. I think they tried to go 5 receivers and got sacked on one of those plays. They haven't been very effective in that regard, and we saw that against the Chiefs specifically. 4th and 1 twice, they didn't make it. So I want them to improve in that area. We'll see if they do. But yeah, I don't know if they should decide on one because I think they're all talented and they all give the defense something different. But I just think Lewis should be featured a little bit more than he has been.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, White is a very versatile back, and Gillislee can be versatile, so I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, I think maybe that's what I meant to say. Maybe you want to use Lewis more, but they haven't been in situations where
they still don't have Burkhead too. So if they start using Burkhead too,
I'm not as high on Burkhead.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I think he's the 4th best running back on the team, but he is good too. I mean, he's not bad. So I think it's that thing with the Patriots where they see something small in a defense and they say, okay, this week it's that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What were you going to say there before I went on that tangent?
I don't think I remember. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I see. I guess I see what you're saying. You want the versatility of all of them. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Gronk comes back, how that offense is. I think that will be a good thing. So
he's back next week. So
yeah,
this was an injury to me that if this game was Sunday, he would have played, but it was
Thursday. Yeah, so I think offensively, they weren't that bad tonight. I mean, I guess they
just made some errors. I mean,
yeah. They left points on the board. I'm still more concerned. The issues on the Patriots are defensively, not necessarily offensively. And I guess for the Bucs, I don't know. I think that they left this one on the table. This is going to be one. If the Falcons lose a should have won, if you win this one, you put yourself in a really good position in the South. So I think this will come back to haunt them.
I think looking at the Patriots, it is interesting though that offensively they were coming into this game the best offense in the league in yards and points, but they had 3 really good games against the Texans, Panthers, and Chiefs for the most part in the Chiefs game, and then they have a bad game against the Bucs defense, and they had a good game against the Saints too. But they had a really bad. They had their worst game, I'll say, against the Bucs defense. That's probably the 2nd worst defense they've played. So that's kind of interesting. But it is what it is. Like I said, they have some of those games, and it's sloppy, and it's Thursday night, and it's on the road. So I'll give them. We'll see if it happens next week again, which I don't think will happen. Maybe you're a tad concerned, but still, they won the game and they did it. So Devin McCourty defensively, 11 tackles in this game. I thought he was really, really, really good in this game. Played up in the box, made some tackles on 3rd and short. He made a touchdown saving tackle on Deshaun Jackson. He had some nice coverage plays. He's just that leader in the secondary that really needs to be on his game. He is that last line of defense, and I think he's one of the most underrated safeties in the league. Because of all that he does on that defense. Kyle Van Noy had 7 tackles and half a sack. He was a little bit better in this game. I thought he kind of was weak the last couple of weeks. Well, everybody was, but I thought he had some moments. Stephon Gilmore, 5 tackles, but that's good for him. I mean, he was quiet because he did his job and he wasn't leaving guys wide open. And he was covering Mike Evans a lot in this game, and to keep Mike Evans under 60 yards is a good feat. Malcolm Butler had his moments. I thought they were kind of a little bit soft with Malcolm Butler in this game. I would have liked to seen him be a little bit more aggressive, but like specifically in the first half, I thought he was really good. In the second half, he kind of got beat a couple times. Landon Roberts was good in the short yardage. Trey Flowers was good again, had half a sack and 3 tackles. Pat Chung I thought was good in this game in coverage. Dante Hightower was kind of quiet, but he had a couple pressures. Dietrich Wise took too many penalties in this game, but he did have a sack, so I'll at least give him that. So for the most part, I thought this defense played well. I think the number one thing that they lacked in this game, first off, they were terrible with penalties. 12 penalties in this game. A lot of them were on their defense, and 2 that almost gave the Bucs an opportunity that should never happen with 10 seconds left in the half, where you get 2 roughing the passer penalties, 1 on Marsh, 1 on Wise. It was bad. But then the other thing that I didn't really like was specifically in the second half, they struggled to tackle. They were going a lot for the big hits. I think they were trying to make a play and force a turnover, which is fine, but like wrap up. And I thought they kind of were weak in that regard in this game. But everything else I thought was pretty good. They sent a lot of like 3-man rushes and didn't send a lot of blitzers in this game, and it seemed to work better for their coverage. Any other things to add with their defense, Kev?
Secondary I thought was pretty good overall. And clutch play by Jones at the end to stop Howard. And I was reading the stats here, and I thought it said Flowers had 5 sacks. I'm like, what? But no, it's 0.5.
I wish. They wouldn't have scored 14 probably.
Well, yeah, they would have been minus 14. Front 7 looks still some work to do, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess the nice thing is it's 14 points, so that's the improvement, but there's still things to work on, and the penalties. I can't even. I think Bill Belichick
looked livid.
Yeah.
And the refs were bad too. There were some bad calls. Specifically on one call, I remember the Nate Solder personal foul block. That was a joke. That was a
terrible call. That was, yeah.
So there was some bad reffing in this game, but that always happens. I do still think that the Patriots are going to make a trade for someone in the front 7 at the trade deadline. I don't know who they're going to trade. Maybe it is one of their running backs, but I think that they will try and acquire somebody. I think that they are missing a little bit of speed on the edge. And when it comes to guys that can run a little bit and can get mobile on the outside, and just a little bit, another guy to throw into the rotation, because they lost a couple guys to injuries in the offseason, and they lost Ninkovich to a late retirement. So I feel like they do need to go out there and trade for somebody. And usually they trade for two guys or something before the deadline, and they fix, some of their depth issues. But I do want to see them do that. And I think that definitely could help them.
Yeah. I don't think Cassius Marsh has worked out as well as you would hope.
Yeah. I didn't expect him to be stud or anything, but I don't know. I think his IQ, I don't know if it's the late adjustment to coming in, but he hasn't made a lot of, I guess he was better in this game, but they're kind of moving him around everywhere. I saw him at like inside linebacker one play, and like outside and D end. And so he has his moments, but he's been taking too many penalties. He's been run over in the run game. I think he's more of a guy to bring in for some energy, and I think they've been playing him maybe a little bit too much. But they don't really have like a ton of studs right now, especially with Alan Branch not being there. So I don't know, but I definitely want to see them make a trade. So let's get to the comments, and then we'll wrap the video up. So let's go all the way to the top. We have Predator Magnus, who said Brady looked so pissed he might have thrown the whole defense out the plane. The penalties and officiating is terrible this season. Garbage. I agree with both of those statements. Brady did look pissed at the end of the game. He's like, please, defense, win us this game. Coach said, can thank Folk for that kicker. He will be released Friday. Cannot miss 2 easy field goals. That's true, but everybody knew that he was terrible coming into the game, and they still decided to kick with him. So I don't know what to say. Looked like the Seahawks sloppy. Haha. Evelyn says, I can't believe how that went down. Tampa has a kicker, and this is a win. Grr, congrats, Pats, but you lost. Well, they won. So, Bodo says, what the heck? Your D wasn't good. The Tampa Bay kicker was your MVP. Everyone's hating on the Pats after this game. I think a lot of people wanted to see this game be the final nail in the coffin for the Patriots. Do you have that same feeling, Kev?
Well, even if you're 2-3 or not, it's not over. And I don't, it wouldn't have been a nail in it. I don't know if a loss would have necessarily have been a nail in the coffin for the Patriots, especially in that division, where really it's now down to two teams, the Pats and the Bills, with the 4% chance.
Yeah.
So it's not, the only way that there's a nail in the coffin for the Patriots is if they completely collapse and have lost like 10 in a row. But as at this point, there's no nail in it. Like, a loss here for the Bucs wouldn't have been that big of a deal. It would be a big deal, but it wouldn't be a division losing one because of the division that they're in.
Coach says Pats are in the weak AFC. Only Chiefs and Broncos are any good. Can I ask you a question? Who's good in the NFC?
The Lions, the Eagles.
They're not better than the Chiefs, Broncos, or Steelers, though.
I would take the Lions over. I don't know.
And I would say that the Patriots are going to would beat all those teams too. I would say that.
Well, they didn't beat the Chiefs though, so that's the first problem.
Well, that's the AFC team, but I think once the season continues to go on, I think if it was a must-win game in the playoffs, the Patriots would win. We'll see when they play Atlanta, but I think the AFC is a much stronger conference, personally. I don't see anybody in the NFC that I can clearly say they're a great team. Like, I think Green Bay is overrated. I think the Lions are the best team in that division, but still they haven't been ultra impressive. Minnesota lost Dalvin Cook, and that kind of really hurts them for me. The NFC East, the Eagles are I mean, they're good, I guess, but they rely too much on Carson Wentz. I'm still not sold on their run game, and their defense, their secondary has been exposed at times if they can't get pressure. So they have their flaws. The Cowboys don't have a defense. The Redskins are pretty good. I would say the Redskins are pretty good. Who else?
There's a lot of flaws right now on a lot of teams.
Yeah, there's a lot of flaws in a lot of teams. Every team in the league has a flaw. Of course, we look at the NFC West. Are the Rams really legit? They were 3-1 last year. The Seahawks, they haven't looked good. The NFC South, I mean, you could say Atlanta's good, but they slipped up against the Bills. What else? The Bucs didn't look good in this game and haven't really looked good this season. The Saints, maybe, but their defense is really bad. The Panthers, I don't see them having any consistency offensively. So I don't know. Every team in the league has flaws, and that's why I continue to say there's no good teams right now in the NFL.
Yeah, it's tough to say anyone can beat anybody right now because anyone can win at any time.
Bodo said you got lucky. Tampa Bay has an inept quarterback and coach. Predator says
I wouldn't say they're inept.
Yeah, no.
I would say that they are.
I don't know, Bodo. Like, did you only watch this game? Have you never watched Tampa Bay before? Because their coaching has been pretty good and their quarterback has been pretty good for the most part. And Tampa Bay
learn how to win these type of games though too at the same time.
Yeah. Pats had a lot of penalties. Bodo says when you have 2 or 3 running backs, you have 0. Well, actually, every team has 2 or 3 running backs. So
yeah, you can't.
This isn't 1980 anymore.
Yeah.
They are saying you should have 2 great running backs. Well, okay, Gillislee isn't great in his role, but he's good. And White is great in his role. He has the most catches in Super Bowl history. So, Tampa Bay needs to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Run. He really hates Jameis. By the way, I had Romo is the quarterback. I hate him as an announcer. What? Oh, I hated Romo as a quarterback. I hate him as an announcer. I like Romo.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
Disagreeing with Bodo every comment. Evelyn says Bodo Jameis is fine, and you want 3 backs usually. You want a main back, Martin, a power back, Rodgers, and a receiving back, Sims.
Rodgers is nowhere near a power back.
Yeah, 3 running backs. Well, I would say you want a main runner that can catch. You want a receiving back, and you want a backup to the runner receiver. That's what I would say you want.
Yeah, you need some versatility. Yeah.
But like that third guy is typically like a backup. Like usually it's only 2 guys, but on the Patriots, it's 3 because they feel like Lewis is good because he's their third guy right now and he is good. So, Evelyn says, look at the freak that Le'Veon is. He's fast. He can push a line and catch. He's a mutant. Hunt isn't alone. West gets some reps. You need a second back for when you get gassed. Nobody runs 1 running back in the NFL in 2017, guys.
That's why they're so hard to pick in fantasy.
Yeah. Chris Sanders says, talk about Newton. Oh, Jesus. Chris is going to be the new NBA guy on our channel. And I was talking to him about the Newton situation. And let's talk about his apology because we've talked about the situation previously. You know where I stand. Kev, you guys know where Kev stands. I thought the apology was taken in the right direction because it wasn't scripted. It was from him. You could clearly tell. I thought it was what he should say in that regard. I think it's just people need to move on. It was a thing he said. It was bad. It was not right. Even though I don't think it was as bad as people think, and I don't think it was intended the way it was taken, I still think that, okay, yeah, it happened. He slipped up. He did something bad. He was kind of hypocritical in that statement, but now he realizes that he's going to learn from that and he apologized. So I feel like, okay, it's over. It's done with. That situation is over with. That's how I feel about it.
I guess for me,
he lost his sponsorship too. So he one of his sponsorships. So he obviously lost.
Yeah, I think he lost more than one from what I listened to that apology, and I don't know what the other one was. This guy, this is not the first time he called a woman sweetheart. He did this. He completely ignored the media at the Super Bowl. Whenever he loses, he pouts. Remember, actor reminded us of his pouting during his press conferences. I just think this is becoming too consistent of a problem, and that's where I'm concerned about. And I don't know if I found the apology incredibly sincere because he's talking about, I have a platform to inspire people. It felt kind of like BS.
Because he does. He wants to be an inspiration that people can look up to.
Well,
he screwed up. He knows that he screwed up, and that people and that kids that look up to him and people, the fans of the Panthers and of him, are going to look at that and say and have a different opinion of him now because of that. And he doesn't want that to be the opinion of him. He wants to be looked at as somebody that can make a change. And he's been standing up for a lot of these things and a lot of the rights in the NFL. And he's a very vocal guy. And he's a guy that a lot of, especially African-American, younger individuals look at as a role model. And he disappointed them. So that's what he was trying to say.
Okay,
and that's what he did say.
In all of what you just said, he's not necessarily. I think the thing that I have two questions, because the problem wasn't just what he said on the podium. It was how he treated her after the podium.
Nobody knows how that actually went down.
Well, I'm going to take her side here because she shared the story and she was trying to be as dignified as possible. Yeah. So that's in this apology. Didn't hear his apology to her specifically. That's what I'm concerned about. I get he wants to be an inspiration. I get he wants a platform. I get all of that.
Because why should she get any recognition?
Because she was the one that was offended, though.
But the problem is not that she was offended, it's that he offended many women. But so he is apologizing to women, not just her, because she doesn't need fame from this.
She's not getting fame for this.
Yes, she is. And did you see that comment Dylan posted in Twitter, calling a guy a bitch ass N-word? Yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying she's perfect. No one's claiming she's perfect. Okay. But she's done her job. She deserves the respect for a legitimate question. She's done her due diligence to get to where she has. She's been with the team, with the Charlotte Observer, covering the team since last October. She did a documentary about women's basketball, or men's basketball, I think. Basketball. She did her job in Penn State. She does a Carolina Panthers podcast every week. She knows her stuff, and I think from her perspective, it felt like Cam Newton. It was unprofessional.
This is what it was to me. Okay, to me, it was Cam Newton saying and being a little bit of an ego here. A lot of NFL players feel this way. I'm an NFL player. I know way more than you about this. You shouldn't be talking to me about a route.
He didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, he did. He said, yeah, Funchess and Benjamin have been better and stuff like that, and they've been good. He said he talked about that.
That's not an answer. That's a politician answer. It's not an answer.
Okay, I'm just saying, if I was Cam, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't answer it like that, but I would have been like, I don't know, like, is it not so? I wouldn't have said it out loud, but at the same time, I would have been thinking, like, this girl's asking me about, like, Devin Funchess running a route? Like, really? You wouldn't have thought that?
Well, okay, but this is the problem, though.
You wouldn't have thought that? Be honest, Kev. Be honest, Kev.
If I was in Cam's situation, I don't know what I would have been thinking.
Like, it's not the problem that it's a woman or a man or whatever. If the guy is not a football player, why? It's like you're trying to. I don't know. It's like trying.
Why does it have to be different because it's a woman?
It's like me trying to hit, trying to tell Josh Donaldson how to hit a baseball. You know what I mean?
She wasn't saying how to run a route. She was asking a question about a route. There's a big difference.
But she was also saying, oh, do you like how physical Devin Funchess has been, like acting like an expert? That's a
legitimate question she asked. There's nothing in there that says that.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'm teaching you how to run a route. She's asking a question about the physicality of the routes.
Okay. Okay. Let's get back to these football questions. How about that?
Sure.
Nick asks, would you say that our main issue is our offensive line? I think Brady's taken a lot of hits, but honestly, I think the offensive line has been good. Like, they withstanded the Texans. If your offensive line is bad, you're not going to score 30-plus points in 4 games. Like, you know what I mean? I don't get this whole, oh my God, Brady's got sacked. Brady's getting hit. Well, they scored 35 points every game. So, like, is the offensive line really that bad? They're running the ball for 100 yards. They're passing the ball. The problem right now is if you actually watch football, and yes, Cam Newton, you don't need to be an expert for this, is the Patriots, and Romo said this, have changed their offense. They run play action. They look for the deep pass because they have a guy with 4.3 speed in Brandon Cooks, and they had the guy that led the receivers in yards per reception in Chris Hogan. They're going to throw the ball down the field. Okay? So that means that Brady's going to have to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. Thus, he will be hit more. Thus, he will be sacked more. But in return, you will get long, deep, big plays. That is the difference. And that is the shift we've seen without Julian Edelman. They can't do 3-yard out for 7 yards every time because Edelman, they only have a couple guys that, and I would argue they only have 2 guys that can do that. Maybe 3. Okay. They have Amendola, they have White, and they have Lewis. Okay. And you can't do that the whole game. With Edelman, it would be 4-yard slant for 11 yards because Edelman would break the first tackle every single time. But because you don't have that guy that Brady loves to go to, you have to change your offense. And what we've seen with the Patriots offense, if we've seen more of an 07, more of a 2000, early 2000s offense where they would run the ball or spread you out, and then they would throw the ball deeper down the field, and that's making Brady hold the ball a lot. And I also think without Gronk, specifically in this game, there's not that one guy that can just boom right off the bat. That guy's going to beat man coverage right now, right here, right? Amendola can do it in spades. Hogan and Cooks can do it in spades, but Cooks is usually running down the field while Amendola is running underneath. And occasionally White, if he gets a good matchup, boom, he can beat that guy. But, I mean, with Gronk, it's okay, the defense is so scared we can't have this guy cover Gronk one-on-one, so we need to change our defense, and we can't send that extra rusher. We have to double team Gronk. You know what I mean? So I just feel it's the way they've changed their offense more so than the offensive line. I will say this, though. Nate Solder has been lackluster this year because he's been hurt. He didn't practice in training camp because he was hurt, and he's been playing every game, and I credit him for that, but the guy is clearly injured, and he's been beaten up. And also Marcus Cannon, there's something going on with his health. Even he's the best offensive lineman on the team and he's still been great, but he's had his moments of weakness because there's something still going on with that whole situation. But overall, I think the offensive line has been good. I just think it's the way they've shifted their offense.
Just looking at something here, because against Houston, 26 minutes of time of possession. Tonight, 30-10.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah, time of possession. If I was the Patriots, and I mean, I'm thinking you would want to be in the 33-minute to try to, especially when your defense is struggling the way it is. You kind of want to be in that. You kind of want to be in that 33-minute mode, 31 to 33-minute mode, I think, to give your defense some time. But I don't think their offensive line is necessarily terrible. I think the offensive line play right now isn't
across the NFL. It's not good. But you look at the teams they've played. They've played the Chiefs. They've played the Texans, and they've played the Panthers. Yeah. Like I said, there's going to be pressure against those teams, and even in those games, they're able to move the ball so effectively too. So
yeah, they have options. I don't think their offensive line has been. Their offensive line hasn't been. The offense overall hasn't necessarily been the problem. It's been penalties and poor defense, especially when they need a stop, I think.
Okay. Predator responds with defense is the number one issue. I think the number one issue, if you're narrowing it down to one thing, I think right now after watching this game, it's the front seven. I think the secondary, I think mostly what I thought through the first 4 weeks was that's communication. They have a lot of talent. They'll fix it. And this game, they fixed the communication. We'll see how it is for going forward. But I think the front seven, not having a great pass rusher outside of really Trey Flowers is the only guy that gets consistent pressure. that's a little bit lacking. And in moments when they don't get that pressure and they give all the quarterback time to throw, anyone's going to hit that throw. So I think the number one issue is that, and the second issue, penalties. Sure, the number one issue on offense might be the offensive line, but you're talking about an offense that's scoring 30 points a game. Sure, they scored 19 in this game, but every team has every side of the ball, has a lackluster game every once in a while. So, do you see the defense improving by December? Yeah, I do. I think they took the first step forward in this game, and I think he's the greatest coach of all time. He's going to slowly fix this. And I think by December, he'll know, okay, this guy plays in this situation. This guy's good at this. This guy's not good at this. We forget that there's a lot of turnover in this defense. Gilmore is new. You have Butler at D tackle, who is new. You have Dietrich Wise, who is new. You have Marsh, who is new. You have Landon Roberts, who is essentially new because he didn't play a lot last year. So you have a lot of starters and a lot of players that are new to this defense. So I think that will slowly improve. And as the communication errors go down, the more they'll be able to add to their defensive calls, and the flexibility and kind of complication of their defense will return, which will make them better. So
cool. Yeah.
You
mentioned that better than I have nothing to add. I'm just listening.
Yeah. Gostkowski is back, though. I'll say that. Gostkowski is back.
Oh, he's one of the best in the game. I don't think that's...
Yeah, last year he had kind of a lackluster year, but 2015 he was nearly perfect, other than that extra point miss. But this year he's been perfect so far. Like, he hasn't missed a kick, so that's good. Okay, let's read a couple more comments and then we'll leave. There's got to be a reason for lack of scoring. Well, they only had lack of scoring in one game, so I don't really know.
Does he mean overall in the league or the Patriots?
No, he means the Patriots. So I don't really know what he's talking about, because they had a lack of scoring in this game. They had over 400 yards. They just couldn't execute in the red zone this game. I think you got to credit the Bucs a little too for being a bend but don't break in this game, and they did a good job. Bodo says he's disappointed in me for some reason. Nick says, good point. I would chalk it up to that Predator not being we need Gronk, and also this is without Jules. Brady is still trying to find chemistry with Cooks. I also think that's something on offense, that the more that Cooks and Brady play together, the better this offense could potentially be, because that obviously will improve with time. So
yeah.
Any other final comments there, Kev?
I think, it's a win for the Patriots, which gets them on the right track. Wins are always better than losses. I still think there's things to work on, as we talked about. For the Buccaneers, I think they got some things to work on offensively. Defensively, they're hurt. But I want to just quickly look at the Tampa Bay schedule here, because I'm a little intrigued what they have here. Sorry, this is great YouTube, what I'm doing here, but let's see what they got here. They got Cardinals, they got the Bills next, Panthers, Saints, and then, they have a run of division games, Panthers, Saints, and then the Jets, Dolphins. So it's, they could potentially win at least 4 of the next 5. But they do have the Bucs. Yeah, but they've got November 26th to December 18th is going to be really interesting, because you got twice the Falcons, and then you have the Packers and the Lions. And that's where I'm going to be really interested to see where this Bucs team is.
That's for sure.
That's, I think, the real test for the Bucs.
Just to answer Nick's question, when do you guys do live videos? We do live videos for the NFL, typically Tuesday for a weekly recap. We do Wednesday for our picks, our game picks. Thursday, we do Thursday Night Football. These are just live videos. And Sunday, we do Sunday NFL Live in the morning before the games start. And we do Sunday Night Football, and we do Monday Night Football. So we do all the primetime games, and then we have a full recap on like Tuesday where we recap all the games. So no, we don't do Pat's games specifically. I've kind of always wanted to do that, but that's just too much. So we just throw it all in one video to do all the recaps. And usually, typically, they're like 30 minutes after the primetime games. So
yeah. And then we got Dylan's video Monday, my video Saturday.
Yeah, start 'em, sit 'em.
Like that. Start 'em, sit 'em.
Yeah. So we have a lot of NFL content on this channel, and it's only going to get better here on the Bottom Line View. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Yes. So mine this week, watch out.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling mine the 5, I think.
The 5.
The 5. The 5 stories. The 5 biggest stories of the NFL on the first 5 weeks of the season.
Ah, sounds interesting. All right, tune into that one on Saturday for Kevil. See you on Sunday. We'll see you at the start on Sit-em. Make sure you watch that if you're a fantasy fan. I'm going to probably have that out on Saturday this week because I'm flying tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll have to adjust that. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Bottom Line View content and more Kevil. Peace.